then so much the better. Give a look, and hopefully we can conclude this this tale of Tiamat revisited. Not this Saturday, but the next one, the 28th. All right. Well, it is time to choose some background music and to load back into the beta test for Daggerheart. What's going to be good? This could work. Okay. As usual, if the volume of my microphone or the background music is too loud, too soft, please let me know, because what you see and hear may very well be different than what I see and hear, and I mean, it's important that I'm broadcasting to you all, because everything is right here for me. Pardon me. Okay, let's bring up our screens here. Now, I do have the 1.3. I do have the 1.3. Now, this is the Warrior specific, though there's not a lot that changes with the outlay of things here. We can get into it because there's a lot of good and redundant information and graphics in the sheets that are provided with the playtest packet. You know, if you start going like, oh, there's so much stuff, we can get into this as time might allow. But yeah, you can see that there's a lot here. But do not let that get you going. 2 out of 10, literally worst thing ever. We're gonna delve back into this. This is beta test 1.3. I have 0 experience with the prior versions. So while we can look at things like the change logs, I'm not going to, because it doesn't mean anything to me. I'm looking at it in the current state, and we'll take it for what it is presented as in this current state. And then, you know, they're searching for feedback. I would love to give feedback on it. And they do ask the publisher and such seeking feedback do ask that. Oh, that wasn't the. This is. There we go. You know, little things like I found 2 commas next to each other. That's not the type of feedback that Darrington Press is looking for. Everything is going to be going through an editor. It hasn't been through an editor yet. And I hope that some of the grumbles that I have so far will be smoothed out in the editing process. Yeah, that's one of the options for your character, Sierra. In this game, they're not referred to as races. It is ancestry, I think. Here, I can bring up what I'm looking at here in the character sheet. So you have heritage, but heritage is a mix of in D&D it would be in part your background and your race. So yeah, here your ancestry. These are the ones that are baked into the core book here. Clanks, which are robot people, Ribbits, which are frog people, Daemons, which are legally distinct tieflings, I guess, demon people. Dwarves are dwarves, gigantes are gigantes, elves are elves, humans are humans, orcs are orcs, halflings are halflings, Dracona are legally distinct dragonborn, Qatari are legally distinct tabaxi, fairy are bug people, Fawn. Uh, so Furbolg are anthropomorphic cows. Fawn are anthropomorphic rams. Galapa are anthropomorphic turtles. Goblins are goblins. Simia are anthropomorphic apes. Fungrills are anthropomorphic mushrooms. And then your community, so your ancestry and your community make your heritage. And so were you highborn, ridgeborn, seaborn, etc., which open up options for your character. Hi, Survival. Oh, a triple howdy from Survival. All right, so we were reading through the introduction, Chapter 1 and Chapter 2, over the past workshops. And so far, my impression of Daggerheart, and it will continue. This is not a final impression, and I have no stake in saying good things or bad things. I am not clout chasing. I'm not outrage farming or anything. I have found that right now in the version 1.3 playtest, it is written in a very passive voice, which is kind of grating, and or it's giving me the impression that this is a young adult RPG, and there's nothing inherently bad with that. This has a feeling of a low stakes Golden Horizon, big damn hero adventure. So it's in a high fantasy world. Everything is pretty much guided along, and grand adventure awaits on the Golden Horizon. Everything is shiny, and I kind of described it how the Link's Awakening game on the Switch, the remake of that from the old Game Boy game. Everything is bright and shiny, and it's vivid and kind of plastic looking with the shine. Saturday morning cartoon feeling. And so I'm getting the impression that Daggerheart is meant for a younger audience, maybe 10 plus, certainly PG-13 at absolute worst. This might be a very good beginner style RPG from my personal and professional impressions of this system. If this is what is to outreach to the younger generation, then this could be what the intended audience is. This is certainly not sci-fi. It's not horror. This is not OSR style. This is very much like a shiny and new. Anything can be anything. There's it's. I hope I'm describing the senses that have come to mind. Or also what was put forward is this is intended for the audience of Critical Role, I think is what chat had brought up. And so that audience, I believe, has a certain net culture, occupies certain linguistic patterns, demographics, and such. And I can see, based on that interpretation, where this could very much be that appealing to the young adult, next generation. This is, it has a lot of stylings. I said, this kind of feels like maybe Mario 3 or even Super Mario World, if any of you have played those video games as well. This is kind of, in my interpretation, through my brain and experiences, this is a TTRPG form of Super Mario World. Vivid and colorful. Yeah, you might die, but you don't really die. There's not really a game over. You start playing the game, and then you play until it ends, and then you walk away, and hopefully you had a good Saturday morning, sitting down and watching some vivid stuff happen. Yeah, probably like a gateway RPG would be a way to explain it. And I don't want to come across, and I absolutely abhor that there's this latent and consistent need to make sure that I'm coming across as this isn't a slam. I'm not posting this on YouTube demanding Darrington Press be canceled on Twitter because it doesn't play like, I don't know, like Morkborg or Vessen or Alien RPG or Vampire the Masquerade. It doesn't appeal to me. I mean, is this a type of game? I could play any board game. Would I play Daggerheart? Probably not, based on what I've read so far. And maybe that's because I have a lot of tabletop experience, or Daggerheart isn't written with its verbiage or a culture or its intentions for someone who has my interests or my experience or something else along those lines. Is it a bad system? I don't know. We haven't finished reading it yet. But so far, as we've started from the very first page, and we've read through the introduction, chapter 1 and 2, and we're picking up at 3, this is my impression. No, I didn't, Sierra. Would I carry Daggerheart at my shop? I don't think I would put it on my shelf. No. Of course, I would custom order it in. And there's several reasons for this. And this... I hate... I hate the conversations that come up through social media. I have a very hard time moving Critical Role merchandise in the store. And even WizKids did a huge dump of Critical Role merch on their site, completely undermining TTRPG, or completely undermining FLGSs and everything too. I went into that on Discord. I can't turn around Critical Role stuff. I don't think I can turn around Daggerheart in my store. The store isn't filled with the opposite of perhaps the intended target of Daggerheart. I just don't think my local meta is open to a game of this angle or tone. No, it's not a hard one. I just want to make sure that I'm explaining things clearly and that I don't... In no way can I be recognized as being a hate farmer or someone who is jumping on some anti-Critical Role bandwagon or anything like that. I am very... I'm neutral towards it. Yeah, this Delport, because this is written for a modern audience, as much as that might have a little bit of a loaded leaning in that term, this is written for a modern youth, or like modern online youth. This would probably be better in a bookstore. At least for mass appeal. Hi, Bersilas. Good morning. And yeah, in Delport, I agree. It makes a lot of sense for them to hit and catch, for Critical Role to hit and catch their already established demographic and target audience and everything with an alternative, because I'm more than certain they're moving away from D&D, because a lot of people are. And let me tell you how uncomfortable this is to say as an FLGS, who D&D is a bread and butter style project, right? Or product. Yeah, Delport, the playtest, you can download it for free from Darrington Press. I am no one special. I was not contacted by them. I owe them no favors, nor do I owe them criticism. I am going into this as a completely neutral third party with my own angle of I can approach this as someone who would be in the position to possibly sell this. So I need to understand this game differently than someone else. If any of you are personally, or if you know someone who's like, this is we're going into some sarcasm, all right? If you know anyone who's like, own the chuds, punch the people that I don't agree with, kind of a thing, this is angled towards that kind of a direction. It's not inciting violence. I'm saying that is going to be a naturally more receptive audience for Daggerheart. And that's in opposition to other titles with their wording that would be more receptive to, melt the snowflakes, grah, everything is blood and death, grah. Because I have the unique and distinct pleasure of being caught in the middle of all that BS. I don't like that. But I need to understand this professionally, so the things I bring up aren't choosing a side. I don't have a say in the culture war here. Whether I carry it or not is not a support or rejection of a political platform or anything along those lines. It's, would this sell to the people that are in my local physical IRL? I'm a human being, flesh and blood, not an online person, right? A real human being who would want to purchase this with money to have or to play with other human beings. Lucius, for me, it's just business. Now, if you all out there, through your own personal accounts or whatever, if you want to own a chud or melt a snowflake, or you don't care and you're sick of it too, or whatever, I hope that's what draws you here. Because I'm going to give you my impression. And so my impression, this is a beginner RPG. This is Saturday morning cartoon, Super Mario World, Link's Awakening. Everything is plastic and bright and shiny, low risk, low stakes. It's written in a very passive voice, using a lot of terms and language and concepts you might find in modern Western online culture. And I do think, and I'm not contending it's a not a wise business move, that Critical Role moves to capture their audience with Daggerheart and pulls them into this system to then, grow and go from there. And we must also remember that this is not edited yet. An editor could come through and say everything is written in such a passive tone, you need to stop that. Because you say something and the very next sentence almost mitigates or renders irrelevant the rule that or the concept that was just put out there. And so it's something that could very well actually be almost completely taken care of going through a formal editing process with a refinement of this open and free playtest that they have offered to everyone. Again, I just went to the Darrington Press website. They get your email. You can download this. You can look at it for yourself, and you can give it a 10 out of 10 with a glowing review, or you can give it a 1 out of 10 and say it's literally blah blah blah. You could find it somewhere in the middle. This is an open approach to try and get an idea from the audience of, hey, if we present an idea like this, are you open or receptive to it? Now, mechanically speaking, there's some neat innovation. There's things that feel clunky or unnecessary. There's parts of this game where I feel like there's a built-in fidget spinner, which may very well be part of this outreach. This might be this might just be a part of the demographic this is meant for, with the cards and the way that it keeps having you move tokens and such. That there's this built-in fidget spinner into the system. But that I need to know this sort of stuff, because if I were to make a recommendation to someone who says, "Hey, do you have a particular game that might cater to my interests or demographics?" Then if I understand that, yeah, if you want a kind of a fusion of a board game and role-playing game, something beginner-friendly, or if I know that someone has a particular online leaning for opinion or various sociological leanings, then this game makes it very clear where it stands, and I can make that recommendation. Yep, Delport, if you like fiddly bits, then I would recommend this. This actively recommends that there's all sorts of tokens to use. There's cards. There's kind of a 4th edition style fusion of slotting in your abilities, changing them out on a rest. If you like touching things and moving things, then this is, and this isn't said critically, I'm happy. I will joke around and go like blah blah blah. Ooh, squirrel. This kind of has that corralling effect of ooh, squirrel, or gives you things to fidget while you're waiting for your very open-ended turn to come around. But again, that could be written towards a younger audience, or adults who have proclivities that need to touch things or fidget. The very passive tone, the way that very common concepts are very, very commonly repeated over and over again, has that it's like a passive talking down to or explaining to an adult concepts that don't need to be explained unless you are childish, either chronologically, or there's something where you might be somewhere on the autism spectrum, and you have trouble with understanding certain concepts, or you need it repeated, or you need to see it written out in every part. That could very well be very purposeful and baked in to approach that audience. And I don't have a personal problem with that. There's many people who come to the store who are on the spectrum or who are children, not just of heart. I am certainly a child at heart. Just a little kid who might need this stuff actually spelled out because there's not been enough time to learn through life experience or enough contact. But that's so far what the impression has conveyed through the writing style and the mechanics that have been presented so far, and the things that have been brought up. Does that make this a bad game? No, I don't think so. Is this a game for me? No. I'm one person. Does that mean I won't recommend this game to other people? No. If I know that a game like this would appeal to you, I will recommend it to you. Do I think I can carry this in my store? No, I'm not gonna. I don't think I'm gonna put one copy on the shelf to sit. I will custom order them in. But I think if I order a copy of Daggerheart, it's going to be wallpaper on my shelf. It'll just sit there. And I am but one store. Maybe your local game store or your Barnes and Noble or Target or something. This is probably Target and Walmart would probably love. They would buy Daggerheart. Big box stores. This is very appealing. I think to things that box stores are like retail outlets like that are looking for. And maybe there are friendly local game stores in a geographical region closer to Washington, Oregon, California, where their local customer base, like they can't keep 10 copies at a time on their shelf. That could be. For a Midwest FLGS, I don't know, maybe I might move one without talking to anyone or pre-selling it, kind of a thing. Maybe I might move one. I don't know. I hope nothing I've said is... nothing I said should be a hot take, nor is it incriminating. Whether or not I agree with someone's verbiage or stance or leanings for something through business or politics or something else, I don't have to agree with someone. I love understanding. And once I know, then I can make decisions about my own life. With it, through it, around it, or whatever. So... Lucius. Lucius, you condensed my idea. You're right. There was the Nintendo show, right? It had Mega Man, Eggplant Wizard, Mother Brain. It had. Wow. Why am I derping out on the name from Castlevania? Simon. Pit from Kid Icarus. And there's also the Super Mario Brothers Super Show that combines these kind of like bright, shiny Nintendo games with the Saturday morning cartoon, and so maybe that, Lucius, is a good condensed way to bring up the theme or the feeling of the mechanics of Daggerheart presented thus far. Yep. Well, depending on the Discord channels you're in, or the Twitters or whatever social media you use, that's a very popular phrase. Just as melting snowflakes or SJW stuff or get woke, go broke is on the opposite end of that spectrum as well. I am firmly ensconced because I get attacked on both sides by these concepts and terms. So I have to understand it in order to navigate this very crater-filled battlefield. And so, yeah, as long as you understand, all of you out there, where I'm coming from in this, when I say things like it feels like a Saturday morning cartoon, that's not charged, nor is it loaded. It's simply an impression that I have about this product. That is neither good nor bad, because maybe for some of you out there, you want a lighter adventure. I wouldn't say that this is beer and pretzels, I would say that this is beginner style. It is beginner style, low risk, low stakes. Consequences are there, kind of, if you want them. And so this might just be, it might be an interesting read, or the artwork I saw was really neat. And I like some of the things that I've read so far. It does take some aspects, like there's no skills in this game. There are roles based on attributes, and there's experiences you have, which would be kind of a direction of several skills bundled into circumstances that can come up during the game. Stuff like that is clever. There are things that I don't know if it actually streamlines the game, how the playtest might wish to streamline the game. Does it make it unplayable? You know, is this the fuel, the burning core of a dumpster fire of a TTRPG? No, by no stretch of the imagination. Is this a fun kind of board game, role-playing game? Yes, it is. That's my impression. Anyway, now we've talked about things that I've gone on for 30 minutes about. The introduction in the first 2 chapters. We haven't even touched on running an adventure. Let's begin in chapter 3. This chapter is only required reading if you plan to be the game master in a game of Daggerheart. If you're simply reading the book to create and play a character, you've reached the end of all you need to know. But if you're a game master, read on, and you know what? These are things that at least I need to know. If you all need to tune out, well, I'm sorry to lose you. I'd love to have you around. Though, even as a player, it may not hurt to understand what can go into the decisions that a GM is prompted to make in a game of Daggerheart. So, I don't think there's any spoilers, because this is simply a different consideration, maybe a different set of rules or prompts. We'll continue on. Being a game master means that you are responsible for guiding the narrative and acting as the rest of the world that exists around your PCs. You might be the massive sandstorm that, by the way, if you're an experienced TTRPGer, there is a lot of this kind of redundant explaining of the roles, which is fine. Because, again, I do firmly believe that this is a beginner entry-level TTRPG. And even for things that are maybe more advanced, you still do get recaps or a reminder of these things. If there's something that really just goes on, or it's a bunch of minutia, I might skip over it after touching on the point, and we can come back to it. For you all as a target audience, many of you already have role-playing experience, and you all know that if you ever need me to stop, go back, or to further define or discuss something, you may also ask in chat. But I do want to make sure that I'm giving this system a very fair look. And so I'm going to continue reading, and if I need to skip over something because it's super redundant, then I will. Or in the case of last night, I didn't read the gear table, which was kind of the end of chapter 2, because at this point in time, I don't care about the math. I don't care what things are called, whether it's an armor stitcher or a gill salve, or what it does. I'm not interested in the minutia of the rules. I'm still trying to learn the theme, the target audience. I'm trying to learn the feel before I worry at all. Well, this is busted because it's a +2 to something, and statistically, this circumstance only comes up, 11.73% of the time, and so it's more appropriate if this is a +1 due to blah, blah, blah. I'm not worried about the math. And so I skipped over the equipment because I'm not at that point yet. I want to know who is this made for? What is meant to happen with Daggerheart? Because none of you in your game may ever touch a gill salve, and I don't want to talk about gill salve in this moment if it's something that could very well be a variable. Anyway, Being a game master means you are responsible. Okay, yeah, so there's that. So you're everything but the PCs. Being a GM can be one of the most fun, exhilarating, and fulfilling experiences at the table, but it can also be intimidating, especially when learning a new system. This chapter is dedicated to giving you all you need to know about how to run Daggerheart, understanding the core mechanics, creating memorable encounters, planning exciting sessions, how to select, create, and use GM moves, crafting a full campaign, and more. Parts of this chapter are much more conversational than the rest of the book. The previous chapters were primarily focused on delivering the mechanics of the game. While we're going to cover mechanics as well, we're also going to talk about things that lend themselves much better to a conversation. Things like story structure and improv and world building. Because at the end of the day, the big secret TM about GMing is that you get to make it all up. Whether you made it up the week before, the day before, or the moment at the table, you are always crafting an experience for your players through the decisions you make. In this section, you'll find some core guidance for running Daggerheart, GM principles, best practices, and pitfalls to avoid. These 3 sections provide a foundation for how to get the most out of this game. The GM principles are your guiding star. When in doubt, return to the principles. The best practices and pitfalls section that follow give you examples of approaches to take and traps to avoid when GMing Daggerheart. As you read, don't forget the golden rule from Chapter 1. Make the game your own. Whether you are a first-time GM, a veteran behind the screen, or anything in between, we encourage you to embrace the parts here that resonate with you and modify any you don't. And I understand that because if I did have a gripe, it's because this has been mentioned all the time on every page in every section. Daggerheart stands on the shoulders of a decades-long tradition of fantasy adventure RPGs that traces back to the beginning of the form as we know it. This game has many things in common with its predecessors: an attention to dramatizing combat, familiar fantasy ancestries and archetypes, shared touchstones from popular culture and folklore, and more. In addition, as you can see in the touchstone section, Daggerheart draws inspiration from a variety of RPGs beyond the fantasy adventure genre. Like each of the games that came before, Daggerheart has its priorities and tools for telling certain types of stories. Daggerheart is focused on collaboration in building a character-focused story full of emotion. Daggerheart's combats come alive with the dramatic beats and rhythm of the battle, highlight the conflicting motivations of the combatants, along with the characters' bonds with each other. These GM principles are the guiding stars for GMs running Daggerheart. Follow them as best you can to help the whole table have the best possible experiences playing this game. That might be another good redux, Delport. Daggerheart, well-intentioned but not subtle. I think that is a not contrived. It is a genuinely neutral statement about Daggerheart in this version 1.3 playtest state. And I agree. It has good intentions. It's not subtle about some themes or concepts it expresses. And if that goes on to filter out people, then in that case, everyone wins. Because people aren't going to be misguided or duped into buying or playing something they don't want to buy or support or to play. And Daggerheart curates the approach, the those who want to come on board with the system, the product, the community that's built around it. Oh, that's the other thing, Delport, that you weren't around for. Man, it pulls you out. It pulls you out. As much as it talks about the storytelling, and I appreciate it, it really wants to emphasize that. it pulls you out of it so often with how it's currently written, which I hope is also fixed in editing. Begin and end with the fiction. It's a pattern. Like you see that brought up, and it's brought up so many times. You wonder why is it expressed like that in that way repeatedly. But yes, begin and end with the fiction. The fiction. The fiction. You're here to tell a fictional story with fictional characters. Fiction is driven home hard, which is jarring because I want to be... I don't care if it's a Saturday morning cartoon, magical fantasy land, whether it's high or low or whatever. I want to be here, but man, if I'm not ripped out of this frequently. Instead of this beautiful scene, you get this all the time. Hi, Dingo. Delport says, no one can say that's not in the rules. You can't just change things if you can't just change things. I agree. But it carries the same kind of weirdness. Like every street sign should also have the city and state in which you're driving. And so you're like, okay, it's correct. I am driving down Main Street in you know, wherever. But why does every street sign always have also the city and the state and maybe even the country as well posted on every post instead of just saying the street, with you realizing that you're in that city, in that state, in that country? That's why it's kind of a grating or jarring, or why it kind of... That's not that pulling out of immersion feeling. But that's a way I think that my senses are helping me to describe the situation where... Yeah, why doesn't every street sign also have the city and the state listed? Why not? You know? It would make GeoGuessr easier. I agree, Delport. Hey! Legendary Action, it's good to see ya. Thank you for dropping by. I hope you and the Legendary crew are doing well. Thank you for popping into the workshop. It's new digs. I mean, digitally it might look like it, but off camera as well. There's some new things that are happening. Don't tell anyone, though. I ruined the immersion. I'm not actually in this fantasy world. Sorry, everyone. Oh! Well, okay. Well, then, I'm glad they're doing well, and as are you for your deployment. Well, it's an upgrade that came at almost going out of business, because 2023 was a special year for tabletop role-playing games, and FLGSs in particular. That's a whole other subject apart from Daggerheart, though. But you know what? I'm still here. I'm still going strong. And it's setting down some new routes at a new location, in a new time slot here on Twitch. But I hope that you are then individually doing well, and that things are moving ahead for you in a positive manner. And please do, because I don't know if I get to often drop in if they're broadcasting, but if you do get to speak with any of the other crew, please let them know that Matt from the Hero Zone does wish them well, and I hope things are going well for them. Alright, so fill the world with life, wonder, and danger, make every roll carry weight, collaborate at all times, especially in conflict, ask questions and incorporate the answers, hold on gently, play to find out what happens. The fiction refers to the world of the story and what's happening within it. Use the fiction to decide when to call for rolls, what the impact of results will be, what GM moves to use, and so on. If you're not sure whether a roll should have advantage or disadvantage, what the difficulty should be, etc., look at the fiction. Think about the situation in the story and decide how that would manifest in the mechanics. The rules of Daggerheart exist to facilitate telling a story together with the players, and when a roll or use of the mechanics is complete, the GM connects those results back to the fiction and describes them in the story so that play may continue smoothly. Daggerheart is a game of action, adventure, and high fantasy. One of your biggest jobs as the GM is to present a world worthy of heroic tales you've all set out to build together. When running a player-driven game, you can take the backgrounds and connection questions and other character details provided by your players and use those as a palette, along with any other palette discussed in Session 0, to paint a picture of an exciting world that honors the motivations and personhood of everyone, from high nobility and demigods to everyday artisans and farmers and everyone in between. You should offer hooks of wondrous places, connections to the character's background, and potential threats to see what catches your player's interest. Then tease out that interest and present challenges that make the dramatic crucible you'll all use to shape the PCs into heroes of legend. Action rolls in Daggerheart describe and resolve a moment within a story, which might be as short as a split-second dodge or an entire exchange of blows between combatants, all the way up to a montage of running down leads over the course of an entire evening at a gala. Because the GM gets the choice to make a move in response whenever the players roll a result with fear or a failure, and since every roll generates meta currency used in play, hope or fear, only ask the players to roll in meaningful moments to make every roll count. Provide information freely and validate the character's skills by giving them information they'd easily know or letting them just succeed at tasks that don't present a dramatic challenge. That way, when you do call for rolls in dangerous moments, it carries more weight for all involved. Daggerheart's rolls are designed to create heartbreaking complications or unexpectedly challenging obstacles with failures and exciting triumphs with successes. And by the way, for Alex or anyone else, if you're just joining, we're in the Chapter 3 of Daggerheart here. This is the version 1.3 playtest packet. All of you can go out and download it for free right now from Darrington Press. If you want me to go back over a notion, if you want me to bring up something again, let me know. I'm happy to do so. I have no agenda. Look, come on, guys. We got to keep this moving. It's a freckle past a hair. I'm not in a rush. I'm happy to have a conversation as we explore what is Daggerheart. When you're the GM, the players are your collaborators, and their characters are the protagonists of the campaign. You're all working together to tell an exciting, memorable story where heroes face incredible odds and often win in the end. Antagonism between player and GM should exist only in the fiction of the game, through the actions of the NPCs and the world. Neither the PCs nor the players are your enemy. They're the opponents of the adversaries you play, but the GM and the players are on the same side, the side invested in telling an amazing story together. When representing antagonists and challenges, the GM's main job is to balance presenting credible threats with maintaining the trust of the players so that the collaborative process can succeed. Part of collaboration is being a fan of the players and a fan of the characters. Being a fan of the players means consciously including story elements and themes they've expressed interest in. It also means giving them the benefit of the doubt when they forget something small, especially something that their character wouldn't forget. Being a fan of the PCs means that while you'll make their life challenging, up to and potentially including death, you're never rooting for them to lose. You're working with the players to ensure that the character's story is exciting and the world around them is behaving with internal consistency. In Daggerheart, the GM doesn't have to do all the heavy lifting in terms of world building and narration. Daggerheart encourages the GM to share narrative authority with the players. Many players will be drawn more fully into the world when you empower them to add their own touches and details to the world of the story. You might ask the player whose character is from this town to describe the market. Rather than describing the critical success of a character's blow, you can ask the player to take the spotlight and narrate their triumph. In dramatic or even commonplace moments, you might ask questions about the character's motivations, their emotions, and their history to see how the current moment relates. Some groups may want to go even further, closing the gap in narrative authority between players and GM, with players taking authorship over entire regions or nations. Do your best to respect the players' contributions and fold them into the fabric of the story. Take those answers as an indication of the player's interest and think about how to fold them into the story. As the GM, it's your job to maintain the integrity of the world and make adjustments where needed. But ensuring that every player's voice is included will mean that the story is truly representative of the creativity of the whole group. Improvisational storytelling isn't always perfect, and that's okay. Hold on gently to the fiction, enough so that you don't lose the pieces that matter, but not so tightly that the narrative has no room to breathe. Let yourself make mistakes and make changes. Smooth the edges and shape them to fit. You'll be the final arbiter and editor, but don't worry if you need to go back and revisit or retroactively change something that's come before. Daggerheart is a game about heroic adventures and the emotional journeys of the PCs. A group plays together to find out what these heroes will do and what kind of legends they will become. As a player-driven game, the overarching plot of a Daggerheart campaign should emerge from collaboration with the players, tying the characters' stories together with one another and with the world and its major events. Daggerheart thrives when the GM creates room to be surprised by what the players will do, the choices they'll make, and the people they'll become. It's most useful to prepare situations without expectations about the solutions the players will find or create. Preparing adversaries and appropriate maps can help make for exciting scenes, but always know you can adjust or completely throw out plans to follow inspiration when it strikes at the table. Lastly, remember that everything should flow from the fiction. I'm going to have to do a Control F to find out how many times is fiction mentioned in this. I don't know, it gives me like a weird Uncanny Valley vibe. Listen to the other players and react to what they say and how they act. When someone rolls the dice, let the results lead you to what happens next and express that in the fiction. GM best practices. The above GM principles guide you in what to do. Meanwhile, the practices in this section help you know how to do it. Think of the principles as the guiding stars for your game's ship, and the practices are the sails, ropes, oars, and other tools the ship uses to traverse that route. Cultivate a curious table, gain your players' trust, treat the characters as competent, cut to the action, keep the story moving forward, help the players use the game, create a meta conversation, ground the world in motive, bring the game's mechanics to life, reframe rather than reject, work in moments and montages. Tantalize players with a suspiciously coded line muttered under a character's breath. Illustrate the signs of a lingering magical threat, hint at future danger coming over the horizon. Throw out hooks and see what catches their interest. Fostering an environment of creative inquiry at the table, and that curiosity can lead you to incredible places. Another way to foster curiosity at the table is to practice it yourself. Ask questions of the character to prime the players to think about the world through their character's interests. Do you think Reyna has run across the Twilight God's Inquisitors before? What does she think of them as a Seraph of the Dawn? Maris, have you been to this town before in your travels as a bard? What do you remember about the audiences here? The GM is part of the table, so this can extend to you as well. Follow your own curiosity and share it with the players. Did you mean it when you said you'd never go home again? How is your character feeling after the confrontation with the Inquisitor? Asking these kinds of questions also gives the table insight into the PC's internal monologue and helps you all to understand these characters on a deeper level. Trust is essential for a successful game of Daggerheart or any TTRPG. The GM trusts the players to represent their characters' actions thoughtfully while keeping the shared goals of the table in mind. The players trust that the GM is acting in good faith, that when you're introducing challenges and doling out consequences, you're doing so with the interest of the whole table in mind. Make promises and then follow through on them. Let players' hunches be correct where you can. Let them feel like their understanding of the world is correct, even if it's incomplete. In resolving an action, deliver on the expectations you set before the roll was made. This also means admitting when you misstep or misspeak and checking in with your players when you're unsure about something. Strive to believe the players when they bring in their characters' experiences. The bonus they gain is no guarantee of success, and validating a player's vision of their character while still representing the difficulty of an obstacle honestly creates a healthy balance of dramatic uncertainty. True on the fiction, I think one challenge with narrative games with a lot of personal investment on both sides of the table, feelings get involved. Maybe fiction is to reinforce it's a game and drive separation. And that's why, Alex, I don't know if you're hanging out when I said it. That's why as the rules are presented here, I'm torn out of them so often. And perhaps also why this is, in reading through this with no... I'm going into it. This is first blush, first reading. I read from the intro through chapter 1 and 2, and now we're into 3. This is very much written like a beginner level, like an entry level, beginner level game that has other aspects to it, but that this is. Yeah, DQ. That's why the passive voice written, like the passive voice used throughout this document is jarring or uncanny. Because it's like hearing someone say sorry all the time. Good afternoon. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry about what? Oh, sorry for saying sorry. You don't have to be. Oh, okay, sorry. Please stop being sorry. You don't need to be. All I said is good afternoon. Sorry. Okay. Have a good day. I have nothing else I can give you except a prompt to say I'm sorry. If that is a part of your personality and who you are, if you are apologetic for everything, that's you, and you can be you, but if I can't have a conversation or move on with an idea, then my ability to communicate doesn't match yours, and it's okay that we live other lives, kind of a thing, right? And so it's just such a very passively worded rule system so far, or that it constantly takes you out of what it wants to build or present in the playtest material. Remember, this has not been through an editor yet, and the editor might go, "Hey, author, stop this, please, you're undermining yourself. We want magical realms full of this stuff, and not to drag people, kicking and screaming and going, okay, are you sure you want to swing on the goblin? Okay, I'm sorry, of course you do. Okay, go ahead and roll. Are you sure you want to roll? Is it okay if you want to roll? It's okay if you don't want to. We'll just say that you hit, okay? Because you're probably going to hit anyway. You know what? I'm sorry. Combat, it's just not... It's so jarring. I just want to tell a story where you feel sad and happy. Let's just skip to that, and I need you all to feel sad now. The goblin died. You won because, you're the heroes, and That might be a hyperbolic or a hypothetical kind of a thing. It's the mood that builds and grows with this kind of very passive. Everything has to be checked at every single point. You have to be consistently reminded that you aren't, like, that you are playing a game, and not even that you're telling a story. It's a game about telling a story, and everything needs to be checked. Oh, I'm turning left onto Main Street. Am I still in the city and state? Well, what happens if I turn right onto 2nd Street? Am I still in the city and state? I am? All right. Now, I'm going to make another right onto Central. Am I still in the city and the state? Even though I was on Main Street, I moved to 2nd Street, and now I'm on Central Street. Am I still in the same city and state? Yes. You are. I don't think I have to continue to repeat that. and every time you repeat it, it's jarring. I don't need to be reminded I'm in the same city and state. I might be on a different street, and that's important to know. And so there's just this weird. It's like a verbal uncanny valley of I'm approaching a game, but I'm consistently reminded that it's actually just a bunch of people having a social interaction, which that's what a game is. But if the bunch of people getting together for a social interaction is already a part of playing a game, as per the method through the very commonly accepted, ideas and thoughts of it, why am I always told that you're playing a game, or that we're having a social interaction between human beings as the qualifier for playing a game? It just... I hope this is amended in editing. Hi, Small. Good to see ya. Man, Small, you've been putting in some work, my friend. Small, there are parts of it I like. I think that there are some unique mechanics. I think by this point I have the tone of the game. This is a young adult novel TTRPG. This is a modern audience, online demographic, kind of a target market. And it is presenting high fantasy Saturday morning cartoon, kind of low stakes, role-playing game. And that's said very neutrally. This is not charged politically or socially or demographically or anything. In reading everything as it's been presented, this is my professional, as someone who sells TTRPGs to human beings. It feels weird if I have to say that, right? Yeah. As someone whose job it is to sell TTRPGs to living, breathing human beings, this is my impression of Daggerheart. Is this game for me? No. Is this game for someone? Yes. And I think I have the direction of where this is meant to point. Well, Alex, I can't say that I disagree, but I don't know, and so I will just leave it open-ended, and move on from there. So it is a play style, and it is absolutely okay. Catan is such a ubiquitous board game. And yet, Catan is not for everyone, despite how... this is a game that should be for everyone. It's not, though. And that's fine. Daggerheart, for sure, is not a game for everyone. And I think that the language and the tone and the themes of Daggerheart have very much been targeted at a particular Venn diagram of demographic data. Uh, there are complications, Small Anarchy. That's also why I say that this game has a built-in fidget spinner. Some of the mechanics that you're encouraged to use are like a fidget spinner at the table for the people who are playing Daggerheart. Which is also said neutrally. A lot of people have fidget spinners. Either because it's that or bouncing a leg with whether you just do it or it's a restless leg syndrome. They just like it. It's a distraction. There's a lot of, there's some parts to it. There's like a built-in fidget spinner to this young adult novel TTRPG. And Alex, I would say that while this is a beginner-friendly, it's meant to be a gateway into role-playing and to attract new players. I wouldn't call this beer and pretzels. It's probably just the next step beyond beer and pretzels. Though, I almost feel like the term beer and pretzels is confrontational to Daggerheart. Dingo, I am fine. I am happy to continue exploring, and I hope anything that I read or that I talk about opinion, and I might have an emphatic tone to my voice, it's not coming across as outrage or I'm insulted or, Western society is crumbling because of Daggerheart, upload, or nothing like that. But it certainly is a presentation of an idea. And as a part of this, I mean, maybe I'll run a one-shot. Who knows? I'm not against it. I don't feel morally compromised if I run something original in Daggerheart. I firmly believe that Daggerheart is meant for short-form play. It goes to level 10. There is a recommendation, and I say this, it's in the book, even though it's kind of now in chat anyway, kind of its own like tongue-in-cheek meme. You don't have to. But like every 3 sessions you level up and you go to level 10, and there's your end game. I think that this is meant for short form, colorful bursts of storytelling, kind of a, colorful, easy to consume package of adventure, right? It's like sitting down and you're playing Mario 3 or Super Mario World, right? You hit the boxes, you get the coins, you jump on the turtles, and you have fun. It's that kind of a spirit in tabletop role-playing game form. Yeah, Alex, and even for D&D, yes, it does go to level 20. I love long form and going to level 20. However, most games maybe go to level 10, which is also why I think this system stops at 10. That's not necessarily a complaint on my behalf. It's stating what's in the playtest packet. But if you look at even the data for D&D, the world's most popular role-playing game, that their modules, most of their modules are between 1 and 10 or will take you from 1 and 10. The game gets super wonky after 10. This, I think, nips that in the bud and says you play until 10 and then, retire and make a new character or something. I didn't get to watch it yet, DQ, but I did see he had a video on that. I do follow him. In fact, Matt Colville senpai noticed me in a tweet. Oh, yeah, between 3 and 10. Yep. And Daggerheart takes the 3 out of it because in D&D you wouldn't start between 3 and 10 because 3 is the latest time that a class gets their subclass. In this system, you start with your class and your subclass. You play You play until level 10, and there you go. DQ, I'm just another Matt that's involved in tabletop role-playing games. There's at least a half dozen of us. I'm just another Matt. I'm a literal who on Twitch, on YouTube, wherever. But I do appreciate you all being here and talking about your ideas and your impressions. Yeah, Delport, and so Daggerheart, it condenses it down. It says, look, we understand that there's a sweet spot, and we want you to play hard in this sandbox, and then walk away when when the street lights come on or the dinner bell rings, and that's level 10, right? And so that is something that this system is meant to do. You play hard and fast in the sweet spot, and you stop before it gets unwieldy. And I think it understands that. It does it well. Yep, hashtag so many Matts. Delport, there's so many of us. Anyway. You know what? This section's gone on for about an hour, and I am completely out of hashtag not sponsored Kroger Big K, 0 sugar, 0 calorie, caffeine free root beer. Kroger, you're leaving money on the table. Why aren't you sponsoring me? I'm literally drinking, to use the modern parlance of online talk. Everything is literal, as if there's a. If only metaphorical was also as clearly defined as a filler word as literal in online conversations and even offline conversations. I'm literally drinking your root beer on camera, and your generic root beer is my root beer of choice. Why aren't you sponsoring me, Kroger? Anyway, you could buy three 12 packs for $12 right now at your local Kroger. All right, I'm gonna get up and I'm gonna take like a 5-minute break. I'm gonna refresh myself. Let's pick up again here at gain your players' trust as we're going through GM considerations for running a session of Daggerheart. Oh, Magic, especially after level 10, and there are 4 tiers of play in D&D. Absolutely. But yeah, hold on tight, everyone. Here's our break screen. Oh, beautiful. And I will see you in a couple minutes. Hold on.